What is going on, guys? Today we're going to be looking at the biggest bounce backs. Ooh, alliteration right there for you. Go ahead and hop in on the video. Already getting a vocabulary lesson, but we got the biggest bounce backs in recent UFC history, okay, guys? You're going to see exactly what I mean by this as soon as the video gets going, guys, because this was inspired by this man. This man right here, the Nigerian Nightmare, Exhibit A, our first example of one of the biggest, one of the best bounce backs in UFC history. And that is Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman. Okay? This man was counted out. You know what? I'll admit this myself. I picked Joaquin Buckley to win this fight. Not because I thought Kamaru Usman was going to look bad. I actually said in my video or on stream something. I said that Buckley, I thought he was going to win a decision. The main reason I picked Buckley to win, I'm coping a little bit. The main reason I picked Buckley to win was because I thought we were going to see more of what we saw in round 5. I thought Buckley was going to be able to stuff multiple takedowns, which he did not until round 5. I thought he was going to be able to, if he gets taken down a couple times, maybe scramble up to his feet. He's shown the ability, the explosiveness to get back up to his feet. But man, Usman, he's just too good. Kamaru Usman turned back the clock, bro. Vintage Nigerian Nightmare performance. This man took Joaquin Buckley down at will. This man was up 4-0 going into the 5th. There was a little bit of scares in the 5th round. Usman was eating some big shots, bro. Buckley was getting really close with these Superman uppercuts, bro. Buckley was throwing everything at this man. Usman was eating some of them. But for the most part, Usman, again, doesn't look like his prime self. I'm not going to say that, but this man's 38 years old. Let me remind you, he was on a 3-fight losing streak going into this fight. Almost a 2-year layoff. So, there's some grace for guys that pick Buckley, man. Buckley was on a 6-fight win streak. I already know, guys. I already know this win against Joaquin Buckley is going to get discredited. It will in the future. People are going to say, okay, well, he beat Joaquin Buckley. Buckley was on a 6-fight winning streak. All the momentum in the world, very active. Kamaru Usman was almost on a 2-year layoff. He's a podcaster, brother. So it's not like we were picking against Usman. It was more like we were picking against Father Time. At least that's how I feel. I'm so glad that Kamaru Usman got it done. He's my favorite welterweight on the roster, second being JDM. So if they were to fight, man, that'd be torn. That's not a fight that Usman wins, though. I'm going to be honest. Usman looked really good. Great performance against Joaquin Buckley. Does he still have it? Yes. Does he have it enough to become welterweight champion once again? I'm going to say no. Again, Usman tends to prove the haters wrong. I'm not trying to count him out, say he can't do something, man. Taking what from who? But just this win alone is one of the greatest bounce backs in UFC history, bro. When fighters get older and fight younger prospects, when they're on a losing streak, long layoffs, it never works out. It just doesn't. It never works out. You can look at the old guard of the welterweight division. Gilbert Burns has not won in a while. Bilal Muhammad just took an L. Who else? Wonderboy hasn't won in a minute. And then you got Colby Covington, who's on that same page. But man, this win, I know it's going to get underrated, man. Joaquin Buckley is a killer. Like I said, a lot of momentum, a lot of hype going into this fight. Dude, I'm so happy, bro. We're so back. We're so back because this man right here has bounced back. And also, you know who else bounced back this year? My sweet Pookie princess, Alexander Volkanovski, man. Oh my gosh. Guys, all we need is Izzy. All we need is Izzy to win. I know I'm biased because I'm an Izzy fan. Maybe some of y'all don't like Izzy. Maybe you got problems, but if Izzy can bounce back too, bro, I'm going to be complete. I'm going to be so happy. Vulcganowski, guys, let me remind you. I know you did not forget because how could you forget? But Volkanovski is the champion. Volkanovski is the current featherweight champion of the world, man. It just sounds so good rolling off the tongue, bro. I'm not even trying to glaze, but this is reasonable glaze, okay? Alexander Volkanovski coming off of back-to-back, not just losses, but knockout losses, okay? To Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev, which just happen to be 2 of the top 3 pound-for-pound fighters in the world, I believe. Maybe they have Ilia at 4 now that I'm thinking about it because, Dana White loves John Jones, but that's another conversation for another day, okay? But Alexander Volkanovski, man, a lot of people counted him out. His chin is gone. His chin, I'm not going to say it's completely gone, but it is a little questionable still. We saw that in the Diego Lopez fight. But Alexander Volkanovski proved that he still has it, kind of like Kamaru Usman did. Now, Volkanovski, again, not performing at the highest level that he's capable of in the past. Prime Volkanovski was special, pound for pound #1 in the world. But Volkanovski has it enough to become the featherweight champion. Now, I will say, again, not trying to discredit anything from him, discredit the Diego Lopez victory, but Volk's just a better fighter than Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez is very, very dangerous, but again, he's not on the level of Ilia Topuria. He's not on the level of Islam. Again, not taking anything away from my sweet Pookie Princess Volkanovski. But guys, it hasn't even sunk in yet, really. Think about this. We're in 2025. In the Big 2-5, Volkanovski is champion once again. And Kamaru Usman is back in the win column. Like I'm saying, man, the only thing that is left is for Israel Adesanya to go out there, get his revenge against Sean Strickland, and once again be in the win column as well. Or you know what? We can go even a step further. And Yuri, all Yuri has to do is just beat Magomed Ankalaev, man. It's not difficult. If Yuri becomes champion again too, man, oh my God. Don't get me salivating and fantasizing about things. But Volkanovski reclaiming the title was the most feel-good moment of the entire year, maybe of this past decade, to be honest, man. I almost started crying. I legitimately fell to my knees, started bawling my eyes out when Volkanovski finally got to change his picture on the UFC website, guys. If you know, you know. We had to sit through a fat picture of Volkanovski. Now we get this image. Volkanovski with the belt once again, guys. It's like humanity is restored, man. But let's keep it rolling. On to the next. The man you saw on the thumbnail, this one's a little bit different, okay? Charles Oliveira. Most of y'all know the story. But for some of y'all, maybe that don't. Before Charles Oliveira went on a tear and became champion, he was known as a quitter, okay? Charles Oliveira came over to the UFC as a young kid. And he was mid at best, okay? He would win one, lose one, win two, maybe win three, and then lose another one. Lose two, win two. All right, you get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying, Charles Oliveira. I'm not going to say he was a 50-50 fighter, but he was mid. Like I'm saying, it was a decent win. It was definitely a decent win to have on your resume, but he's not the Charles Oliveira of today. And it wasn't even close, okay? Let me remind you, Charles Oliveira, his last loss before he hit the win streak was against Paul Felder. But before Charles Oliveira went on the 11-fight win streak, he was 1-3 in his last 4, okay? So Charles Oliveira flipped the switch, man. He flipped the switch. And I'm telling you, this man completely bounced back in the best way possible. Right before Do Bronx locked in, bro, he was 10-8 in the UFC. So basically was a 50-50 fighter at this point. But Charles Oliveira, man, started getting some tattoos. Once he got going, he dyed his hair. This man flipped the switch and went on an 11-fight win streak. And not only that, this man, Charles Oliveira, went from being counted out to becoming the lightweight champion of the world. This was another feel-good moment in the UFC. All of these are feel-good moments, to be honest, man. But Charles Oliveira, you can say that that's a better moment, him winning the title over Volkanovski, because the story's there. Like I said, went from being a quitter to a champion. Volkanovski's is great as well. I'm not trying to take anything away from either guy. Volkanovski got knocked out twice by two of the best fighters we've ever seen in UFC history. That's another conversation y'all aren't ready for. Not the greatest fighters of all time, but skill for skill, the best, probably. But Charles Oliveira, man, oh boy. Charles Oliveira has an opportunity to become lightweight champion once again big if, by the way, guys, he beats Ilia Topuria, man. If he does, we can put Charles Oliveira on this list twice. But it's such a good story. If you want to go further into that, man, I'm sure there's good YouTube documentaries of Charles Do Bronx, man. Probably get you emotional. But Do Bronx absolutely has to be here. Let's keep it rolling. Dominic Reyes, okay? This one, Dominic Reyes was undefeated, man. He was undefeated in the UFC going into the John Jones fight. A lot of people think that this was one of the biggest robberies, maybe the biggest robbery in UFC history, okay? Very, very competitive fight between Dominic Reyes and John Jones. Maybe he did get robbed. Maybe the refs got it wrong. Maybe the judges got it wrong. And Dominic Reyes could have become light heavyweight champion. Imagine how the timeline would look right now. Imagine how differently the UFC landscape would be. Imagine how differently people would view John Jones potentially. Maybe he even retired already. I don't know. But Dominic Reyes was undefeated going into the Jones fight and lost a very close decision. And then from that point on, he lost 3 more fights after that. So Dominic Reyes went from being undefeated to losing 4 fights in a row in the UFC. And not just that, besides the Jones performance, all 3 of those other losses were by knockout. And as y'all know, coming back from a knockout is not an easy thing to do, especially coming back from consecutive knockouts. But Dominic Reyes, man, he wasn't just getting knocked out by anybody. He was getting knocked out by Jiří Procházka, the greatest fighter of all time. Jan Blachowicz, Polish power. But then, there's a Ryan Spann knockout loss, which is not very great. But Dominic Reyes then, he dialed in, bro. He took time off. I believe he took like a year and a half off after the Ryan Spann loss. And boy, oh boy, Dominic Reyes is not just back. He's better. But Dominic Reyes made his return in the summer of 2024 after the layoff, after the 3 consecutive knockout losses. And what did he do? He sparked Dustin Jacoby inside 2 minutes. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's Dustin Jacoby. Dustin Jacoby, kickboxing background, let me remind you. He's been in there. He is a crafty vet himself. He's been in there with some crafty vets as well. That Dustin Jacoby win has actually aged pretty well. Dustin Jacoby just knocked out Vitor Petrino, okay? But anyway, it's not just the Dustin Jacoby win that I'm, going crazy about. It's not just that. It doesn't just end right there, okay? Because right after that, Dominic Reyes beat the greatest non-champion in UFC history. A man that could have become UFC champion if he would have taken the easy way out against John Jones. But he's Lionheart for a reason, man. Porky, we've got Anthony Lionheart Smith, okay? Dominic Reyes destroyed Anthony Smith. He made Lionheart curl up into a fetal position, made Lionheart quit, okay? Dominic Reyes, the same Dominic Reyes that was on a 4-fight losing streak, is now on a 2-fight winning streak, okay? And again, it does not stop there. Fast forward to UFC 314, man. UFC 314 was a turning point for the UFC. It was just a feel-good moment, man. It was a feel-good card. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, to open up the UFC 314 main card, Dominic Reyes fighting Nikita Krylov, who was on a win streak himself. What happens, bro? What happened? Dominic Reyes sparked him halfway into the first round. Guys, Dominic Reyes is not back. He's better. I'm telling you, Dominic Reyes is now riding a 3-fight win streak, guys. Talk about flipping on upside down. But anyway, Dominic Reyes goes from a 4-fight losing streak who is now on a 3-fight winning streak. This is one of the greatest bounce backs we've ever seen, bro. Dominic Reyes still probably is very chinny, but people were saying, people did not think he was going to get another victory in the UFC. People thought he was going to retire. He had mental issues as well. I'm glad he seems to be doing better. But guys, I'm going to say this right now. I believe that Dominic Reyes will be fighting for the title in 2026. Maybe that's a hot take to some of y'all. I mean, to be honest, Dominic Reyes is really 1 win away, and I could see it. I really could see it because Ankalaev, he's probably going to fight Pereira again. I think he wins that. Maybe Jiří Procházka and Carlos Ulberg matchup. I think Jiří would win that, hopefully. But maybe Jiří Procházka fights Magomed Ankalaev, and then after that, it's kind of a fall-off. There's no other contenders. They're not going to throw Jamal Hill in there unless he racks up a couple wins. Maybe Khalil Roundtree beats Jamal Hill and maybe another one. Maybe they even match up Dominic Reyes and Khalil Roundtree or the winner of that fight. I don't know. But Dominic Reyes is likely 1 win away from fighting for the title, bro. If he happens to go in there and win the light heavyweight title, which I don't think he will. I'm not going to go that far, but it's possible. If he does that, bro, this could potentially be the greatest story in UFC history. Now, Dominic Reyes, this is one of the best bounce backs in UFC history. Let's go ahead and move on to the final one on my list, Tom Aspinall, okay? Some of y'all don't know this, surprisingly, but Tom Aspinall was undefeated in the UFC, okay? Hyped up prospect, looking like the best heavyweight potentially we've ever seen. Everybody calling him a future champion, and rightfully so. But Tom Aspinall goes in there. I believe it was the headliner against Curtis Blades. Sort of a number 1 contenders fight. It was close. It was a title eliminator bout at least. But man, 15 seconds into the fight, Tom Aspinall throws a leg kick and tears everything in his knee. I believe he tore his MCL, maybe his meniscus, also some ACL damage as well. And he's now sidelined for a whole year. And not only that, bro, but people are wondering, is Tom Aspinall going to be the same? Is he going to be able to bounce back from this severe leg injury? And what does he do? Exactly, I think it was like exactly 1 year later. Makes his return against Marcin Tybura. What does he do? Tom Aspinall knocks him out in the first round. You know, Tom Aspinall just doing Tom Aspinall things, getting everybody out of there in the first round, except for Andrei Arlovski somehow, the crafty vet. But he knocks out Marcin Tybura in like a minute. Okay? And after that, you know, it's supposed to be John Jones versus Stipe Miocic the first time. That fight falls through because John Jones is hurt. You know, John Jones is the heavyweight champion. He gets hurt. Doesn't have to vacate his title or anything. But they're fighting for an interim title. They need a title fight. They need a headliner. They need some fights to replace the Madison Square Garden card. So they call up Alex Pereira and Yuri Prohaska. And who else do they call? Tom Aspinall to fight Sergey Pavlovich, who was also knocking everybody out in the first round. That was the boogeyman. That was the scariest fighter in the heavyweight division. So surely he knocks out Tom Aspinall, right? I mean, he's coming off a leg injury. You know, he's not the same. Tom Aspinall knocks him out in a minute, okay? Tom Aspinall is now the interim champion, man. You can say the story stops there. It's a storybook ending. Tom Aspinall comes back from this devastating injury, claims the interim title. You know, would love to see him unify that title against John Jones, but that's another conversation for another day, okay? But guys, the story continues, okay? Because even after that, you know, Tom Aspinall was forced to defend his interim title against Curtis Blades, okay? Now, Curtis Blades was the man who injured Tom Aspinall, not on purpose or anything, not saying anything like that. But Tom Aspinall, you know, that's his only loss on his UFC record was against Curtis Blades. So this is a perfect opportunity for Tom Aspinall to get his revenge and scratch that loss off of his record, basically. So Tom Aspinall defending his interim title against Curtis Blades, knocks him out in 1 minute, guys. Tom Aspinall, the interim champion, still to this day, really the undisputed champion. We should be hearing that very soon, I would hope. But Tom Aspinall, talk about a bounce back, guys. Again, this is just recent UFC history. I could have put like a Michael Bisping here for his detached retina coming back, winning the world championship. There's obviously a bunch of other options here, but this is in recent UFC memory. And Tom Aspinall and all of these guys on this list are valid examples of a true bounce back in mixed martial arts. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in, guys. That's going to be it for me. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Comment something for the algorithm. And be sure to hit that bell. Turn the post notifications on so you do not miss a UFC live stream. But also let me know in the comments maybe some bounce back, some feel-good moments that I missed. But that's going to be it for me, guys. I appreciate y'all once again. And we out.